Hey folks, so this is our 4th race in the street stock for the season. Back at Clay Hill, few minor changes. Let's go run the car, then we'll talk about it. Oh, you start in the back. Well, it is. You start in the back, so a little bit harder. A little bit harder. Yeah. All right. You got to get to the front end, then stay out front.
I got it.
All right. You're good. Well, we're making progress. We're finally winning heat races, so that's a thing, right? Anyway, I had my camera under the back of the car, and I don't know, I haven't looked at the footage yet, but let me show y'all what I did. I was hoping that it would still be light when we ran our heat race, but it gotten dark, so I don't know if I got the footage or not. But I just zip tied a ruler to the side of the shock on the left and the right rear. I'm trying to see what my movement is on this rear end, so we'll have to see what we got there. So I went to the hardware store and I got 2 of these rulers. I think they were like $2 a piece or something, and they've got cork on the back of them, so I zip tied them to the shocks, and they stuck and didn't move around or anything. And so I'm hoping there was enough light where I can see on the camera and we can see exactly what that rear end's doing, what my load and unload points are. Hopefully give us a little bit of insight into how that's working. That was a hooked up track. It was just a little bit slimy. Like, I'd get in really good, and then it was a little bit slick and slimy on the exit, but I pretty well was just drifting through it and just, you know, hammering down, and then it would start digging and dig off. Did good, stayed out front. I had a really fast guy that was knocking on my door. He caught up to me, but he just couldn't get around me. Dale Nelson, Dale's fast at this track, so that's a good sign. So I'm going to start on the pole in the feature, but Dale Nelson and TJ Herndon, they're going to be right up there with me, and they are tough. And then there's a bunch of other guys too that are fast as well, but them 2 guys is tough. So anyway, all we got to do is just get out front, stay out front, right? Right? Well, let's do that. I think Rachel's fixing to run her heat race, so let's run up there and look at that right quick. I got a camera in her car, so we'll see how she does. I know she's gotten really comfortable in that car, so hopefully she'll do well. Well, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I need to find like 10 horsepower while I got the head off.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Because I want to tell you something. You're faster in the turn than the other cars. This car is pulling forward in the turns. You just ain't got no motor.
That's because you told me, don't lift too much. The whole
don't lift,
yeah. The whole time in my head, I was thinking, just...
Were you backing off the throttle?
I was like, lift it a little, hammer down.
Yeah.
So yeah,
no,
but
great.
The track was really hooked up good. The air pressure and everything held on the car. So like,
yeah, we got it figured out. We need to put more spring in the right rear.
When I turned the steering wheel, it went where I turned it.
Really?
Yeah, it really did.
Well, I think it needs a little more spring in the right rear because it would calm the car down, where that you could just like keep your line better. You wouldn't get jostled around as much.
The track was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Billy in front of me, man, the back end of his car was just bumping all over the place, just bouncing. I noticed I was like,
yours was moving around too.
I figured so.
But I'll tell you, I mean, this thing just flies around the track.
It does.
It just sails around the track. We just ain't got no motor.
I'm also going to get some more muscle holding that steering wheel around them curves.
Yeah.
Hard.
Well, I'm gonna pop the head off of it, and we've got to have something going on. I'll pop the head off. Something's going on with it. But you finished the race.
Heck yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yep.
It'll be fine. Whatever. We'll fix it. Yeah, so this episode is just getting started. The racing, that was just the first part. Here's what's important. This car is much easier to drive, finally doing what I want it to do. It's all starting to come together. I have made several minute changes that have all added up into getting the car where it needs to be. It's a journey, y'all. It's not something where you just do one thing and suddenly it all starts working. It's been my driving, but it's also been a couple subtle changes on the car as well. So I'm gonna get the car cleaned up. We're gonna get it in the shop. I wanna show y'all some of that, all right? So definitely wanna stick around. This is the second season on this same part. Tough as nails. Those Dominator fenders, they are fantastic. They are so tough. You get a hit or something, it all just goes back to shape. I'm not spending all my time working on fenders. All right, just like that. Boom. It's off. Okay. All right, so I got it dried off. I got it up on the scales. I set all the air pressure and everything back to where it was when I ran that feature. Of course, I haven't changed any of the tires, wheels, or offsets out. Nothing like that. Haven't put any fuel in the car, so it's right where it was when I finished the race. And this is my board with all the setup information from a year ago. Haven't changed a thing. I set that thing over in the corner, and then we went on and raced the rest of the year, and I'm glad I never erased it, because we can do a little comparison now, because the car acts completely different now than it did a year ago. I was really struggling with the car, just tight everywhere, and then, you know, snapping the car loose, no grip off, you know, getting down the bottom of the track and the car wouldn't turn. Had all kind of problems with the car last year that I was fighting through. And so now, to me, it acts significantly different. A lot more action in the car, a lot more movement in the car. And so maybe we can kind of tell what exactly is doing that by, like, comparing the numbers out. So, take a look, put this in your memory, because we're going to start changing stuff as we go. All right, so scale numbers right off the bat. I'm just going to wipe these out and put the new ones on. So instead of 713 on that left, you know what? I'm gonna have to just wipe all these out. It's gonna take too long if we go box by box, back and forth. We will both get bored to death. Oh, and this board's gonna read like a mess because everything's gonna be smudged because all this dry erase has done really dried out. That's good enough. All right, so my first two, 763 on the left front, 645 on the right front, 837 on the left rear, and 799 on the right rear. So look at that. 38 pounds of left rear bite in the car. 38 pounds of drive is all this car's got. Had tons of drive off the corner. Tons of drive. That number right there, on this kind of setup, don't get hung up on that number, y'all. I'm telling you, you're depending on the bar angle, you're depending on a traction shock. There's so much more going on the car that creates drive besides just having some big bite number right there. Because this car it's better than it's ever been. And that's like the lowest bite number I've ever had. All right, so don't get hung up on that. Oh, let's see. All right, so now let's talk percentages. So left side percentage is, let's see, 52.6. Okay, so I was at 54.2 on the left. Now I'm at 50, I think it's 50, let me look again. Yeah, 52.6. So dramatic difference in left side percentage now versus a year ago. 52.6. That right there was a big chunk of my problem. I had the left side of the car tied down. Too much left side percentage. Couldn't get the action in the car because I had all this weight over here. Yes, that weight theoretically can create more drive off the corner. But the problem is if you're trying to turn the car and you can't because the left side is digging in and pushing you and skating the car, you end up snapping the car loose. And once you snap the car loose, you don't have any drive. You know, so big change right there. Yep, that was a chunk of it. The rear percentage now, let's see, 27 and 26 is 53.7. So a little less rear. I knew that because I took some weight off the car. 53.7 on the rear versus 54.6. 53.7. Part of that was I took some lead, just took the entire block, 40 pounds, off the back of the car altogether, and dropped that rear percentage on the car as part of that. Now, when I fill back up with fuel, that's probably going to come back up to 54.1 or 2, something like that. I've seen, like, you know, for me, about 60 or 70 pounds of fuel equates to like 0.5% of rear is what I'm seeing. I've got the fuel tank as far forward as I can get it so that it's the least effect, but I still see about 0.5% burn off difference there. And then the cross, which I really don't worry about the cross. I just set the car up, and the cross is what the cross is, but 48.7. Now look at that, 51.8. Now I'm going all the way down to 48.7. All right. Now, huge difference right there. Huge difference right there. But it's actually the result of other changes. Changing the left. See, I had huge bite in the car before. See that 150 pounds of bite I had in the car before? That, along with a bunch of left, well, that's all were variables that was making the cross be different. I will tell you, you cannot chase a particular cross number and also a bite number and also a left number. Mathematically, they're all tied together. And so, and the bite, the rear as well. Like, you can like change 3 of these, but you cannot control 4 and make them hit exact numbers because you'll get a conflict. And for that reason, I don't really worry about the cross. It is just telling you the result of what you did with the rest of it. That's the way I view cross. Right? And then the bite, of course, we already saw is at 38 pounds now, so I'll write that in. 38 pounds. And then the total is 3,045. All right, so I see 2 big changes here. I see a drastic reduction in left side percentage. Got that car freed up, got the car working and everything. Drastic reduction in the left rear bite number. I don't really get hung up on that number. That thing could vary quite a bit. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm setting the preload and stuff on the left rear. Like, in other words, like where that left rear is at, like say when it hits the chain and how much load is in the left rear and how much load is in the right rear. I'm really trying to look more at like the action on the springs themselves as far as compression goes, more than that left rear bite number with it just sitting in the shop. Because this is just with it sitting still. It's never at that number on the track. It's always going to be up at attitude because I got a big 550 traction shock on the left rear. That shock and the bar angle and all that stuff is what's developing driving the car. So like, yeah, it makes sense that there's like no bite in the car and the car actually works and drives now and like is freer, and I can get into the corner. But like if that was 25 or that was 50 or what, it's like it is what it is. It wouldn't matter to me. I would not adjust this based on it being any number, say between 20 pounds and 60 pounds. I would ignore it. I know that may sound crazy, but I would at this point with what I've learned. Oh, let's see. Now we're going to ignore this stuff because I'm going to pull the car over before we can look at these droop numbers and stuff. But next up, I'll go ahead and cover tire and wheel. So a couple of changes here. On the left front, I was running 15 pounds in the left front last year. Now I'm running 14 pounds in the left front, and I was running 14 pounds in the left rear, and I'm running 13 pounds. I do believe these are the minimums, but this is what I've been running the car. And I will tell y'all, regardless of track conditions, I'm leaving my air alone. And I'm still on 18 pounds in the right front, and I'm still in 17 pounds in the right rear. From what I've seen and looking at my tire wear and everything on these H500s with a 3,000 pound car, when you get below about 17 pounds on the right side of the car, these sidewalls are so stiff they cup these tires. These tires will not wear correctly and you will not get a good footprint in the track when you get down below about 17 pounds. But the left side seems to do fine even down at 13. You know, and like I said, I've been leaving the left front at 14, but it would run at 13 just fine. You know, I don't know what 12 would do on an H500 on the left front. It probably at that point, it's how much weight is your left front seeing at any given time. Would probably be when you start getting that low, but that's working. As far as tire stagger goes, let's see. I'm gonna have to run around the car right quick. I think I'm gonna have to redo this board after this, but we're gonna get this information on here for this video. I've been meaning, I wanted to get this out. So if this is your kind of content right here, definitely want to hit subscribe. Let's see, I'm going to run around here and I'm going to write these on the board and then we'll come back. Here's our new numbers. On the front of the car, it's only got 3/4 of an inch of stagger. And then on the back of the car, I have got 1 3/4 inches of stagger. Don't get hung up on the stagger on the front, y'all. As long as the right front is a little bigger than the left front, it will be okay. It is changing your wedge in the car and stuff, your cross, your bite, all of that. But so it's an adjustment, but it's not going to drastically change how the car is driving. You know, for you to be at a 1/2 inch, 3/4, or 1 inch, you're not going to notice it driving the car. Okay. On the back of the car, it absolutely is going to affect, you know, how the car is driving because your rear axles are locked together. And I will say, the track I've been running so far this year, I want more than that. I think that the car could be a little bit freer and drive a little better if I had maybe 2, 2.5, even 3 inches of stagger. 1 3/4 inches is kind of getting me in the zone, but I think it could be better on this track, which is like between a 1/3 of a mile and maybe between 1/4 and a 1/3 of a mile. Somewhere in there is where this track actually is in size. It wants a little more stagger than that, I can tell. So yeah, so there's the numbers. On the wheel offsets, same as last year, 3 offs all the way around except for the right rear, which is on a 4-inch offset. Important note, this is a metric chassis, but I have a 60-inch rear end in the car, not a 58. And then turn around and I have got the Nova lowers on the front, not the metric lowers on the front. Now, even though they're an approved crate racing tubular, the mount location and positions of them is that of a Nova on the pickup points and stuff. And so that moves that ball joint out 1 inch, and it makes a track width of this car of 60 inches, not 58 inches like a stock metric. And so when you start looking at these wheel offsets and you say, oh, well, I'm on a 2 off on my metric car. Well, if you are on stock metric lower control arms and you are on 2-inch offset on the front, if you were to take and compare my car and your car, our tire track width is going to be the same. It does affect how the car, you know, acts on the springs and stuff. It's not exactly apples to apples, but just be aware that I am running maybe a little more offset than some people are, but I also have got 2 more inches of track width in the car. And that does make for a better handling car. I have a lot of guys ask me about, do I want to run the Novas or do I want to run the metrics on the lowers? Well, you want to run the Novas if you can, as far as the lower control arms, but it changes a lot of things on how the geometry works. Unless you can eliminate or move your upper control arm mount and you can like mount a remote shock, that Nova lower control arm, it changes where the spring and the shock mount up so much that you can't just bolt it on and run it with all the rest of a stock setup. Things won't line up, the shock will bind up, you can't make it work. So just be aware, it's an option, but it's an option if your rules are only going to allow you to change and rework your front end for that to work. So just be aware. All right, so there's our numbers on tires and wheels. Let's see, next up, oh, I can cover this right quick on the springs. I'm still on the exact same springs. 1050 on the left front, those are 9.5-inch tall springs on the front. a 1050 with a flat plate on the left front, a 950 that's in a 2.5 inch drop cup with a Torrington bearing so that it turns free on the right front. All right, so got a difference in the table height, and I got a bearing over here, so that's a super smooth setup on that right front. And then I've got a 125 16-inch spring on the left rear, and I have got a 250, we call it a 230-250 spring. BSB makes that. It's a 13-inch spring. Basically what that means is that first inch, as you start traveling into that spring, that first inch into that second inch, it's like 230 or 235, and then as you compress, it goes to 240, 245, and then once you get into load down in it, it's at 250. So it's got a little bit of variation in it, but it's not a progressive spring. There's no coil changes. There's nothing that makes it illegal. It's a little bit better acting spring. I love them. I put a fresh one on this year. It's working very well for me. I have that on a 2.5 inch drop cup as well. So I have got table difference on the back of the car. I have got table difference on the front of the car. He's like, what are you talking about? Well, what it is, where the car sits on the spring, it's like, in other words, if the car had feet and it was sitting on top of the springs holding it up, the right side of the car is sitting 2.5 inches lower than the left side of the car on the front and the back. All right, so it's sitting like this. And so what that does is from a center of gravity standpoint, I have a little bit more leverage for that center of gravity to be able to push over on the right side of the car. So those drop cups are kind of, in a way you can think about, they kind of soften the right side of the car up a little bit. They make a difference. When I went to these, I did notice a difference. I had them on last year, but I'm keeping them definitely, unless the rules ever remove those, we're going to stay on drop cups on the right side of the car. All right, on the shocks right here, I'm still on the 300 rebound 160 compression on the left front. That is a BSB 300 Gorilla Fist, so that is a tie-down shock. That is the least amount of tie-down on the left front of the car. Ran that last year. I'm leaving it on there. It's working great. And then on the right front, I did make a change this year. Me and Mr. J with BSB discussed this over the winter, and I went from a, matter of fact, it was last fall. I ran it just a little bit last fall. But I went from a 500 rebound Gorilla Fist to a 600. I put just a little bit more. Rebound in, and I went to the Elite Series shocks. What does that mean when it's an Elite Series shock? It's got both a base valve and an SRT valve. It makes the shocks, they have a lot more feel in them. I really like it because I always drove oil shocks throughout my racing career. And I always felt like the car had like more movement in it, and I could feel the car more. And when I went to all these Elite Series shocks, I felt like that I was back getting that kind of limber movement and feeling that I used to have years ago. So I really like the Elite shocks. Still running that same on the right rear, 50 pounds of rebound and 110 pounds of compression. Again, the Elite Series shock there. And the same thing on the left rear, a 75 rebound, 550 compression. That is definitely a traction shock, and again, the Elite Series shock there as well. So the only significant change on the shocks was on this right front, where I went from a 500-pound right front Gorilla Fist shock to a 600-pound Gorilla Fist shock on the right front. And the reason I did that last fall, I was struggling a little bit with losing the nose on the car. Like, I noticed that, like, there would be races where that I would get into the corner if I hit my numbers right and I picked up my throttle like I was supposed to and could get the car pinned and turning, everything was great. But I could only do it about 1 out of every 3 times. Like, I would miss it. I would be a little early. I would be a little late. I'd pick the throttle up a little too late. I'd pick the throttle up a little too early. I wouldn't quite hit my numbers, and my right front would come up fairly easy on me, and of course it just sat back down on the left rear, and now I'm pushing, I'm having to snap the car loose, I'm just pedaling, no drive off the corner when that would happen. So I would have like a fast lap, a slow lap, a slow lap, a fast lap, a slow lap, a slow lap. And I realized it was me, but I asked Mr. J with BSB to help me compensate for that, and that's an important point. You've got to have shocks tuned to your ability as a driver. And, you know, it's like, I didn't used to understand this. You can take a rocket ship car that has the exact right springs and shocks and setup and everything on it. But that does not mean you can take that car to the front, because you have a skill set as a driver and you have to know what that car requires as a driver. So I asked him, I said, give me a little more rebound in the right front. You know, I want a little more time, you know, to be able to make a few more mistakes or miss my numbers a little bit, you know, and it's going to hold that for me. And I knew when I did that I was giving up a little bit of drive off the corner. Make no mistake about it. The more rebound you put in the right front, you're delaying that load coming back to the rear of your car, getting off that corner. So you want the rebound it takes to turn the car. You don't want the rebound it takes to just keep the right front pinned to the track all the time. That's not going to make for a fast car. He did that. He gave me that 600. It did improve me. It helped me with my consistency. I'm still running it. That I may go back to my 500. My backup shock is the 500, not the 600. As my skill improves and I can hit my numbers and know how to keep the car pinned, and then also I took all that left side percentage out of the car. Maybe the car's a lot better now. Maybe I could get rid of that 600 and go back to the 500. On a slick track, that's going to help me have more drive in this car. So just be aware. I made a change there for a reason, but I also understand it's a driver issue, not a setup issue as far as that shock change goes. All right, so when I change back and whatever it does, we'll talk about it, so you make sure you're subscribed. All right, what are we going to do next? We got all of that. Oh, ride heights. Let's do ride heights. So I'm going to go around the car. Where are ride heights wrote? Here are the ride heights. Look at them now, because they're going to be erased. We'll start writing in new ones. I want to point out how I measure height on the car is through the bolts that go through the suspension into the frame. So on the front of the car, that's the bolt that goes from the front behind the center link. That bolt that goes through the frame that holds your lower control arm on, the center of that bolt. On the back of the car, it's where your lower trailing arm is attached to the car itself. So that center of that bolt right there. Those are my ride height points. I use those because they're consistent. When you start measuring under the frame itself, it's like, where are you measuring? And these frames get bent all up and they're all different from the factory. I don't go by that. So I have people that do ask me, like, well, what's your ride height by the frame? I can't answer that question, y'all. That's chasing an impossible situation. Every car is different, so I don't even use that language. I apologize for it, but this is how I measure ride heights. It's a very consistent way to do it, and it's a way you can do it from car to car, all right? On the left front of the car, I raised it from 7 3/8 up to 8 3/4. On the right front of the car, I raised it from 7 1/4 to 8 5/8. That was 1 3/8 higher on both sides. I raised the whole front of the car 1 3/8. Made a drastic difference in the car as far as when I would pick the throttle up. Just the front end of the car was a lot more lively. It would get up and I could feel it pushing load into the rear of the car. So I did have it too low. I was down just a little bit low, like on the right front to the ball joint height. Now I'm above the ball joints as far as like where those bolts are in relation to the center of my lower ball joints. And the car has a lot more action in it. I think that this is the second large change I made. A lot less left percentage, a lot higher ride height in the front. These two things is what got this car freed up and working in the corner, in my opinion. On the back of the car, I went from 10 1/2 on the left rear up to an 11 1/4, and I went from 10 1/4 on the right rear up to 10 3/4. Now, I have a 40-inch deck height rule on the left rear, and the reason that I was still able to raise this up, because I had it high, I was going after that deck height, but the reason I was able to raise this up is because when I raised the front of the car up, that actually brought the tail of the deck where they measured it, that brought that down a little bit. So I was able to put a little bit more height in the car. And overall, if you think about it, when I raised the front of this car up, that was raising my pickup point for my trailing arm on the back of the car. You know, and like, how would I draw that out? So this is a really good point. All right, if that is the chassis of the car, so like we'll say, okay, that's wow, that's a really ugly car. We can do better than that, Jay. All right, there we go. All right, so there's the car. If I go up and I raise the front of the car and my pickup point for the rear is here, I have raised that pickup point because the back tire here is behind it. So I've literally increased the angle of the lower trolling arm when I raised the front of the car. And so that combined effect right there, like I started seeing a lot more dynamic traction in the car when I did that right there. It was really interesting. You know, it's like when I was down in the front too much, it was literally tying the car down and keeping it from being able to create that dynamic drive on the back of the car. So I learned that. I'm not saying that's the exact same thing that you should do on every car for every situation, but it was drastic the difference it made for this car. All right, so we've got ride heights now, and you see where they went to. What's the next thing we want to do? All right, let's look at our, I got left front droop and left rear droop. Those are the chains on the left side of the car. First thing we'll do is we'll check the left front chain to see how much drop we have got in that left front chain. That absolutely does make a difference on these cars. I know some people say that that's witchcraft. It's not. I can tell it when I change that. Let's go over here and look at it. Come on. Okay, so check this out. See this right here, this bolt right here? It's got a chain link right here for movement. And then you see where I've got a, a bushing right here welded onto that lower control arm. And then I've got some adjustment below it, and I've got a stop nut down here below that, okay? So when this lower control arm, when it extends out, it's going to stop at a certain point when it catches this bolt right here. This right here is my left front, people say left front chain, which I use an assembly I think is a little bit more robust, a little bit easier to adjust. But that's what that is. That's controlling my droop on my left front. So I'm going to check it. Like we got driver weight in the car right now. We're sitting at ride height. I'm going to push my O-ring all the way up on my shock right there. I'm going to take a jack and I'm going to jack this right front up until that bolt catches. And that's how much droop we're allowing in this car. All right, so now that's tight, that won't move. And see that O-ring down? Now we're gonna measure that. We're gonna see how much that is. And that is 1.25 inches. There's 1.25 inches of droop right there in that. So I'm gonna let that off. So let's put that on the board. We're at 1.25 inches of left front droop, but like what does that actually mean real world on the car? Well, as we go around the corner and we pick the throttle up, the front end of the car is going to want to start coming up. The left front's going to be the first thing that starts coming up on the car, right? Well, when it catches that chain, that's going to stop that spring on the left front of the car to contributing to adding load to the rear of the car, specifically the right rear of the car. Think about it as far as like transferring load. Think about it like an X. The left front to the right rear, the right front to the left rear. So as you're coming through the corner, you're picking up the throttle, you're picking up that left front of the car. It's transitioning load, so the shock is, that rebound's resisting a certain amount, but it's coming up, it's coming up. Well, that's load that's loading into your right rear. All right, so when you hit that chain on the left front, what happens? Well, what it does is it instantly stops that left front from being able to contribute any more load to the back of the car. Now, the car is still, you're still on the throttle, you've still got G-forces, and, you're picking the throttle up, and now all the load that's on the left side of the car, it's your left rear that's picking it up, not your left front. It's no longer balanced between the two. So you get this big jump in load on the left rear of the car is the best way to think about it. It's like it doesn't exactly work that way, but you got to think about it like, okay, I've killed the left front, but the left side of the car still has weight in it. Where's that weight at now? It's all in the left rear of the car. The left front's no longer helping carry the left side of the car. So when that happens, your car's going to get a lot tighter, all right? So it's a timing thing. You don't want this to be too small a number, because if you've got this down at, 3/4 of an inch or a 1/2 inch or something like that, where that your left front is just tied all the way down all the time, that's going to make your car be very tight when you pick up the throttle and you're trying to turn your car. You're trying to have roll steer. The way you want to use this is it's going to let you have a car that you can be really free in the center of the corner, but as that left front comes up and you're exiting, that's going to help you start balancing that back out and get drive back into that left rear to really get off that corner well. All right? You don't want to take and use that like something that's going to help you get drive in the middle of the corner. That's the wrong way to think about it. Think about that left front chain along the lines of timing it to get tight on exit. If it is tight all the time, it is not set right. Okay, so in my opinion, adjustment on this is somewhere between 1 inch and 1.5 inches is where this should be with the modern shocks like we're running on these modern setups. If you're running something drastically different, your movement of the left front may be drastically different. But my rule for it would be if they allow that chain, you should run it, and you're looking for it to get tight at exit as a way to have a freer car in the center of the turn and tighten up as you get off the turn. Think about it along those lines. I think it can really help make a car faster. All right, last thing on the list is the left rear droop. So that's my chain on my left rear. Last year, I had that thing set at 4 inches, and I had 315 pounds of preload when it was at 4 inches. Now, what does that mean? That means when I jacked the left rear of the car up so that it was hanging, the left rear was like hanging like practically off the ground. I was tight against the chain. I could measure, and the load that was in the spring already, the compression in the spring, was 315 pounds. I am definitely different now. Let me see what the number is, and then we'll look at that. Pretty big change here as well. So it was at 4 inches. Now, the left rear will drop 3.5 inches before it tightens up on the chain. And then the preload, so when it's tight on the chain, the amount of compression in the spring, it wasn't 315 pounds. Now it's only 250 pounds. When I step back and I look at this big picture-wise, like what's the major thing between last year versus this year, I've got a lot less load in the left side of the car, and I've got the front end of the car a lot higher than it was. And those two things are letting the car stay over on the right side easier, keep the right rear planted in the ground easier to keep the car turning. It's easier when I step on the throttle now for the left rear to actually start hiking and pushing that lower trailing arm up under the car, which is building dynamic drive. So it's running that number up when I step on the throttle. It wasn't doing that before. And that higher front end is also allowing the car both to like shift load into the rear when I'm on the throttle, but also it's giving it more room so that when I enter the corner, I've got room for the car's front end to work and keep those tires planted and in control and turn the car so that, when I turn the wheel, the car actually goes where I steer it. I got room now in the suspension, the travel of the car. I'm not bottoming out the right front of the car and then pushing it up the track and stuff. And so, yeah, it's load in the left side of the car. It's ride height in the front of the car. That's where it's at. That's why that this is so significantly different this year than last year. You can look at my playlist. So I've got one that's called Trackside Action. If you check out and go to the channel and you look at the playlist, where that you can see nothing but race footage. And yeah, you can see it. You can see me pushing the nose on entry, skating in the center, tailing off with no drive off the corner in the setup last year versus, me running the car the last couple of weekends this year. It's just like daylight and dark. Changes that I would make to this, very, very little. When I saw that I was struggling on a lap, like the other night or the race before, it was me making mistakes. It was obvious to me that the car it had drive in it. It would turn, and it's just, did I miss my mark? Did I brake too late, or did I not get on the throttle early enough on corner entry? Like every time I had an issue, I could see that it was me driving the car, which tells me don't touch it. Learn how to drive this setup. Get faster. I do have a right rear shock with a little less rebound in it that would free the car up a little bit more if the track was really tractioned up. That's an option. Maybe a 1/2 inch more spacer on the right front or a 1/2 inch more spacer on the left rear for like super slick conditions is possible, but otherwise I'm not changing it. I'm not turning on these jack screws. It's right. I just got to figure out how to drive it. Like, it's fast. And the lap times now versus last year are showing that. So, like, it's just me at this point, which is great. Because now I know, like, if it's not working right, I can look and say, what am I doing wrong? Not what do I need to change on the car. That's a great spot to be in because that's the easiest thing to change. And it's the cheapest thing to change too. All right, so I hope this has been helpful to y'all. Gives you some insight and some ideas on y'all setup and how your car is working. If it does, make sure you're subscribed. Check out a lot of the other setup videos where you can see how I'm working through figuring this car out. It really can help you see how that you can make wrong assumptions, how you can try things, how that you can figure things out. I think it's very helpful to go back and look at some of those older videos and just look at the date of where they're at and understand that I have changed since then. So you got some perspective on like, why was I doing that then versus what I'm doing now. Could really be helpful. So go check them out and I will see you next time.